calls this an extreme piece of legislation. So why is the GOP's strategy in this moving farther away from the negotiating table and compromise with this bill?
Well, that's a very good question, Thomas. And this is a very extreme and twisted version of a balanced budget amendment. In fact, we shouldn't even be calling it that. What it does is manipulates the Constitution itself to make it easier to adopt the radical Republican budget plan. And here's how it does it. It says that if you want to slash Medicare, end the Medicare guarantee, that's a majority vote in Congress. If you want to close tax loopholes or get rid of subsidies, you need a 2/3 vote in the United States Congress. So they would write into the Constitution itself this preference to cut education and slash Medicare over closing tax loopholes. I mean, it is astounding what they're doing, and it's very important that people not just refer to this as some kind of garden variety balanced budget amendment. It's anything but that.
All right, so a major part of the problem in reaching the deal has been Republican stance on revenues when we talk about what's taking place in the talks there. And Grover Norquist is playing a big part in this stance. He was on the air earlier today talking about where he stands on all this. Take a listen.
Obama wants to say, you know what the problem is? The peasants aren't sending enough cash to pay for my government. We should raise taxes. No, the problem is you're spending too much. But if raising taxes does not do anything to help cut spending, raising taxes is what Obama and other Democrats do instead of cutting spending.
All right, so here's Grover Norquist, a man who is not in an elected position by anyone in America, yet he holds a great chokehold on Republicans because he had them sign the tax pledge. Do you think that there's really anything substantial that can be accomplished with so many House Republicans having signed that?
It's going to be really tough because until our Republican colleagues are more worried about reducing the deficit than they're worried about what Grover Norquist has to say, we're going to be in trouble. He said the president wants the peasants to send the revenues. The fact is we're talking about closing corporate loopholes, whether it's corporate jets, subsidies for big oil companies. And yes, we are asking the folks at the very high end of the income scale to simply return to the rates they were at during the Clinton administration. And let's be clear, the framework that the president has put on the table says he will do $3 in cuts for every dollar in revenue generated through closing the loopholes or going to the high-end taxpayers. In fact, in the very short term, he's proposed a payroll tax holiday, which would provide extended middle-class tax relief as we try and get the economy back on its feet.
While we talk about the economy, there are people like Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. They're accusing the president, they're accusing Democrats of using scare tactics or warning the nation is facing this Armageddon if the deal is not reached by August the 2nd. Do you think that it's fair to say that there would be Armageddon, or do you think that it is a proper criticism to say that there are some scare tactics that are being used by the Democrats?
Well, Thomas, I think the game is up on what the Republicans have been saying. They were saying that Secretary Geithner was trying to cook the books and put out these scare tactics. You now have Standard & Poor's, you have Moody's, you have the United States Chamber of Commerce. These are not left-wing organizations that are conspiring with the administration. They've laid it on the line here, and what they've said is if the United States doesn't pay its bills, then there are serious consequences to pay, and I think every American should know that. If you don't pay your mortgage, if you don't pay your car payments, there's going to be trouble. And so that's why it's absolutely astounding that the Republicans are saying we will prevent the United States from paying its bills, whether it's our troops, whether it's Social Security, whether it's other obligations, unless you pass this twisted version of a constitutional amendment that would actually implant their budget plan into the Constitution of the United States. They would put in the Constitution of the United States this bias toward protecting special interest tax breaks. So, look, it's not clear what the path is here forward, so long as Republicans take the position that they will not lift the debt ceiling, they will not allow the United States to pay its bills unless
Congressman,
take these draconian
explain
actions.
Though, I mean, all of us get the idea, everyday Americans, we get the idea of paying our bills, but we pay our bills because we do our jobs. So explain to everyday Americans why the people that we sent to Congress and the people that we sent to the Hill to do their jobs aren't doing their jobs.
Well, we invite the American people into this conversation because I think that all of us are frustrated, just as the American people are. The best we can do right now is to say, please engage in this discussion. let people know how you would best like to resolve it. As the president indicated the other day, most Americans, including most Republicans, favor a balanced approach to solving the deficit problem, and most Americans would like us to focus on getting the economy going again and increasingly recognize that if the United States doesn't pay its bills, if we default on our debt, it'll make that situation even worse. So I hope everyone will engage in this conversation. I will say that many of us have been very frustrated as well. We've been looking for the middle ground. The president has gone more than halfway in trying to meet the Republicans, but we can't get beyond this very simple issue that you raised, which are these pledges that people sign to Grover Norquist saying that they will not end one corporate loophole for the purpose of deficit reduction. And we're saying that just has to be one part, not the whole part. In fact, again, the president said $3 in cuts to $1 in revenue increases. Right. The revenue would not take effect until after the year 2013.
Congressman, we're going to let you get back to work. We appreciate the time that you've given us this morning. Congressman Chris Van Hollen.
Thank you, Thomas.
So it is the first full day of freedom for Casey Anthony now.